Today's video, we're gonna talk about video sales letter strategies, how you can use video sales letters and make tons and tons of money online, and how to get maximum results out of PPC campaigns using video sales letters. Now, what I have here is an absolute proven formula that we've used dozens of times over the last 10 plus years running this agency, a guaranteed PPC, for us to take a fairly unknown solution, product, or service and make it known and make a ton of cash at it and make the money right out of the sky. Of which I'm gonna tell you the script that you need to follow for your video sales letter, and then what needs to happen directly after it for you to also get this kind of result for yourself and make the money right out of the sky for yourself as well, given that if you do not have the script right, you are never gonna make your ad pay for the cost of the ad spend and actually make a profit at the end of the day and scale an ad campaign profitably for your business, given that profits in ads is always in the scaling part, baby. So, and then with that, if you stay to the end of the video, I will tell you just how much this will make with actual case study information about markets we've used it in, the conversion rates, and then ultimately what you need to do to replicate this for yourself. So make sure you watch the video all the way through. So with that said, okay, I want to tell you first and foremost here though, okay, video sales letters are not for everybody, okay? Mainly what, and you may say, well, what is the differentiator, Corey, where I should know I should use a video sales letter versus try to selling another way using, as opposed to sending people to an article or sending people to a webinar or sending people to a regular product page with my product on it or service page with the service on it. Because you can use video sales letters to sell product or services, by the way. But the key differentiator here is where they really shine the most is when you have a fairly unknown solution. So if you're just going to sell something that people think they have a preconceived knowledge about already, so if you're going to sell a broom to them, they already know what a broom should and could do. So there's no mystery there. So a video sales letter, it's hard to use that to actually pique someone's interest quickly. And also, video sales letters will typically work better in the either dating/relationship niche or in the money niche, that is how to make money, how to save money, or in the health, how to fix my, foot problem, my head problem, whatever it is. Why is this? Because these three things are things that people are highly motivated to fix more so than other things. You're going to tell me how to fix my tire. I'm just not as motivated to watch a sales video about that. I don't really care enough, so to say. Not to say a video sales letter can't and won't work, but you're more so in that situation gonna just tell them, here's how to fix a tire. You don't need to generate curiosity and then do a build up and so on and so forth. Or if you're just selling a broom, you're better off just telling them what the hell the broom does, not telling them a story about the broom. It's not generally the most effective way, at least, to sell and make PPC or online advertising work for your brand, okay? So that is something that you should know up front. So basically what you got with video sales letters is it's just one tool in your tool belt of how to sell. And for that matter, as I've talked about on other channels, other videos before, depending on who you're marketing to and what their state of mind is, you certainly will have different approaches. So you can advertise on Google search one way. You can advertise on YouTube another way. You can advertise on LinkedIn another way. And you certainly should be doing different approaches for different channels because people have different mindsets depending on what part of the sales process that they're in, whether they're totally unaware, partially aware of a solution like yours, really motivated to do something, and you have to be more or less aggressive based upon where you're at. Because if a person doesn't know anything about your course, your real estate course, and they're not looking for one, if you go at them like saying, hey, this is the real estate course, here's what it is, it's too aggressive and they're just going to be off put by it. Whereas if you start out telling them a story, you can break your way into familiarity with that customer, and then they'll be willing to listen to what you have to say, so to say. Whereas if a person just wants to buy a broom now, they don't want to hear your stupid story. There's a whole different situation where you use a video sales letter based upon a person not being really close to a purchase, and also similarly not very familiar with your solution, ideally, but not always necessarily. They can know what your solution is and still make it work. But those are the key kind of tenets when it comes to video sales letters, as we found over the last decade running an advertising agency at Guaranteed PPC. So for that matter, what I've got here is basically how the video sales letter process should work, and a proven script/strategy that is my go-to, and that should be your go-to as well if you're going to dip your toes into the water of doing this, of which at least start here. Okay, you can try other formulas. There's certainly other formulas that work, but this is the one that works the most for us, and we recommend you first. So with that said, right off the bat, I also want to tell you the video length for a video sales letter that we kind of found that works the best is right around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, if you go longer than that, you're going to have a high amount of drop off later on. It's hard as hell to keep someone's attention for that long. I mean, if you're a really good entertainer and speaker, you can do a 15, 20-minute sales letter and clean up still. Absolutely. But it's just hard for an average person to do that. So instead of that, what you're better off doing is having a short video sales letter, which then is followed by a longer video sales letter. Okay? So 98% of you guys should be going with the short one, because you aren't, somebody like, even Andrew Tate, who can speak and people will just listen to him regardless of how long he speaks, because he's such a good speaker. He can just capture people's attention that much. That's probably the best speaker that I know that can do that out there. And for that reason, use a shorter video sales letter. Now, during that 2.5 minutes, obviously that's not very much time to say anything. What your goal and your job is with the video sales letter is to take that 2.5 minutes, get them where they're excited about hearing more from you. That's the only thing you're looking to do. So they're committed to hearing more from you, and that's all you're trying to do, because you don't have enough time to do anything else, really. You don't have time to sell the solution. You just want to get them to one step forward into the direction of doing business with you. So now you can actually talk about what you're selling. So it's not selling anything directly itself. It's just warming them up to who you are, what you are, and why this is important, what you're going to be saying in the future. Okay? And then, video sales letters do well because when you send them to the page, at least if you do it the way that I'm talking about here, it does not look like a sales pitch at all. So, because when somebody doesn't know who you are and you go at them with a sales pitch, they're not going to trust you and they're just going to turn it away. But if you go with a video sales letter, no buy button on the page, none of that, just an actual video playing for them, they'll listen because it just looks like, particularly if it's a talking head video, which is what I would go with, it just simply looks like a friend giving you basic advice. That's it. That's all you're going to do it. And then for that matter, the ad leading up to the video sales letter, of which I would, you could do a video sales letter on Facebook directly, but I wouldn't recommend that. What I would do, like if I'm going to drive Facebook traffic to my site, I'm going to have an ad that says, you have to see this information. This is changing everything in 2025. You drive them to the video sales letter, and just to get the maximum click through on the ad, the video itself explains what it is that, all the hype is about, so to say. And then that in and of sells another longer video after that. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So for that matter, what you do is you start out your video sales letter like what I call defining the problem. Do you find real estate deals and you can't find them? Or are you trying to fix your stomach problem? It's really simple. Why? Because this right away, A, confirms to the user that they're at the right place and that they should keep listening. And then B, if they're not listening, they go right away, leave, so that you can tell in your web stats who it is that you should be getting to the page. Because you can then actually set up a goal for people who stay to the end of the video, and then tell the campaign to optimize for people who stay to the end of the video and start to improve your campaign quickly. So you say, do you have a problem finding good real estate deals? I too had that, you go to the next step here in the video, which is to self-identify. I too had that problem until I actually figured out the way that it gets done, that nobody really else has this information. I looked everywhere for it. Okay. So, and if you are, let's say, a doctor fixing people's stomach problems, you don't feel like you can say, I had that problem too. Then you say, my patients had that problem until, okay? So just a small distinction there I wanted to make. Then you go into the, what I call agitate the problem. This is more so like a Dan Kennedy thing. If you know him, follow him. He always follows this kind of formula with his sales copywriting. It affected my life by ... So, I had the problem with finding the real estate deals too until I figured out how other people that were successful were doing this, and then I caught onto it myself. Then it actually affected my life because, basically my wife called me a loser and I couldn't pay my mortgage. And by the way, it's key here. This sounds silly, but you need to get the person emotionally involved in the process if you want a high conversion rate at the end of the video, coughing up their information. And with that, you need to research properly what is these things that are most commonly likely to happen to a person when they have a problem that your product or service solves. That's why it's called agitate the problem. So you're basically bringing up to the surface the things that they feel because they have this problem. So they feel negatively about them, and so that you can have a resolution to that feeling by the end of the video. It's like, how can you resolve the problem if they don't feel like they have a problem? So you have to make the problem apparent in their mind first before you can resolve it. That's the agitate the problem. Then you go into the, we'll call it not your fault. It's not your fault that you weren't smart enough to find these real estate deals yourself. And you do deserve, as a real estate professional, to make these deals. I mean, you work hard every day for your money. And it ain't right that it's so damn hard to find these deals. And, the time that you put in the school and take the courses to actually become a real estate professional, you deserve to have this for yourself. And there actually is a better way. You just have to know what you're doing. Why do I add this part in here? From a psychological standpoint, I personally, by the way, hate when people say they deserve shit, because nobody deserves anything. I don't care who you are, what you are, at the end of the day, except for maybe kids, ultimately. People, they say they deserve stuff because they don't want to, generally speaking, that's a cover for, I'm too lazy or incompetent or arrogant to do what I need to do to get what I want. So I'm going to say I deserve it. Knowing this, though, the average person thinks this way. They have a victim mindset, whether, you're a strong person or not. We all kind of fall for this eventually in one way or another. They want to believe it's not them that's the problem. They want to believe it's somebody else that has caused them to have this problem or be a loser or whatever it is, ultimately. And if you make me feel like I'm not a loser or, ultimately this shouldn't have happened to me because I'm a good person, you're also making me feel good on the inside. So right after you made them feel like shit, bringing up the things that happened to you, which they're going to reflect with, you now get into getting them into the frame of mind that they're going to be open and accepting of what you want them to do later on. So this is kind of like the transition, so to say. It's not your fault, baby. You had a hard life, blah, 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 blah. People like to hear this shit. I mean, ultimately, that's the way that it is. There's a better way though, baby, okay? I started teaching and selling what I learned because I wanted to be able to share and help out the community. I also find real estate deals themselves because I thought it shouldn't just be me that should have it. And it's changed a whole lot of lives since I started doing this, okay? For instance, take Mark here. Mark was a guy that I found at the bar. He also was, almost got his house repossessed. And he just started using my methods. And it started working. And it worked so well, I went ahead and I made a formal program and I started helping a bunch more people. Then you will also get into I want you to also know how this works so you can do it for yourself. Because this is something technically any real estate professional can do. You just have to be willing to do it. And it's not hard to do. Because the thing is, people know they want, ultimately, which is why most people are broke, they want a lot of money, but they don't want to work for it. They want it to be easy. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants. So if you are doing in the space of like money in that area, you got to make it seem like it's whatever you're doing and reconfirm to them before they take the next step forward and you have the ask there that it's going to be easy. If you're in the relationship space and you're saying this is going to make you find, fix your relationship problems with your spouse, this will work and it's easy. If you can be specific, that's even better. It'll only take you an hour a week of just doing these techniques and you'll fix it every time. However, specifics will make them even more confident to take the next step forward because they're going to say, yeah, it works, but is it going to be hard to do? And so you take care of that objection right up front. And then with that said, you have your call to action at the end. Okay. Just click this link that showed up for you on your screen here, and you will see the full method of what I figured out and that I started teaching so you can do this for yourself. Bang, the video is done. Now, there's a buy button that's going to be revealed towards the end of the video. As soon as you start getting into the section that talks about I started teaching this method and it started changing countless of lives or whatever, that's when your buy button shows up. So as I mentioned at the very start of this video, when you start talking and get to this page, there should be nothing on the damn page besides, and not even a logo. Okay. A lot of people screw this up. No logo, no stupid navigation, no phone numbers, nothing. Just the video. Plain background, just the video. Okay. Also, the video can't be skipped. You can't skip ahead on the video. If you don't have this done and they've saw every little step here, they're not going to convert. So you can't let them skip. And then you actually have your call to action at the end once they've gotten to the point where they're ready for it. Now they trust you now. Now they're willing to do something you want to do because you've given something to them up front, which is in the Cialdini book, 7 ways to get people to like and trust you. You have reciprocity. You should look that book up if you haven't already and learn it because it's key in figuring out how to run advertising for your business. So then they see the button and then it's there. So then they click that button. You ask them to opt in, email, phone number. If you ask for a phone number, you'll get about 2/3 less leads. But if you get the phone number, at least when they get to the final video, if you will, which is a pre-recorded webinar, you can actually call them up and say, hey, I saw you watch my webinar. I'm wondering, maybe we could just talk about your issues. You're still trying to find real estate deals, right? That's how you start off that call. They start talking. Then, based upon what they say, you feed into it. Oh, you thought like you didn't really have enough money for this, or it might not be for you. Well, actually, here's why that is not a real valid reason. Whatever it is, they say that's not a valid reason, and you squash the objections one by one, of course. And you do it in a kind way, but the longer you talk to them, the more likely they are going to be to buy, by the way, because the more rapport you're going to have built with them. The goal is just to keep the conversation going on as long as you can, whatever sales staff you have talking to them, until they're basically like, oh, I've been on this call for 30 minutes. Why the hell don't I do it? If you will. But that is effectively what you do. I would recommend getting the phone number up if you got a sales team on the back end. Okay. If not, just get the email if you're not going to use the phone number. You're not going to use it aggressively. That is, as soon as they get done watching the webinar, you immediately call them. And otherwise, you might as well just get the email and just email them, and that's it. Then, but the call to action here is to watch another video, which is a pre-recorded webinar that talks about how your system or product works. Okay, so again, like I was mentioning before, you cannot, depending on where a person is in their buying process, you cannot go too aggressively for that period of time. It's like if you found a girl and you ask them to get married too early, they're going to say no, even though they like you, because it's too much too soon. Your goal is to ask them to get married once a certain minimum time, not too long, is the perfect time to ask, so to say. The webinar it starts off by educating. Of course, you have, there's more to it, and I don't have time to talk about all the details on a webinar, how to make that work. You have an intro, then you gotta have a lead up and all that. But for the most part, it's 90% not telling them exactly how to do it, because then there's nothing to buy, but, basically shaping their mindset from the standpoint of, here's how you thought, and most people think that they're going to get real estate deals, but this is really how to get them. And here's proof that you get them this way. And therefore, at the end of it, if you want to do this for yourself, here is how you do it. You buy this course, or you get our coaching, whatever it is. And that's the full funnel, if you will. So, but that is the entire process. Again, you drive people from your ad to your video sales letter. You're not selling anything per se on that ad other than, you literally can say almost anything you want. As long as you know a person is in market for real estate courses and you get them to your page, it'll convert. So what could you say to get them to this page to watch this? The more you get to the page, the more you're going to make. So not to say you could talk about, backflipping monkeys to get them to the page to get them to click through at a higher rate. I'm not talking about that, but you can say real estate, people are making millions of dollars a year because I understood this method. And that method could be, super vague, but that, and you show like some guy that's a real estate guy with piles of cash next to him. That would be a clever ad to get people to your video sales letter at a high enough rate to where instead of paying $1 per click, you're paying 20 cents a click. And so now you have a much higher ROI on your campaign as a result. The video sales letter does the heavy lifting for you and explaining to, everything, so to say. And there's more stuff I want to talk about here, including the numbers in terms of how much you can make, markets we've used this in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel though yet, take a minute to do that. I've got the best information on how to make money with ads on this channel, given to you by somebody who's run an advertising agency for over a decade and doing all this strategy for all of our clients and continuing to do that to this day, giving you what works as well as what doesn't work. I've got a great blog on my site as well that matches the value of the content on this channel. You can find that at guaranteedppc.com/blog. It has all the methods that I'm using to guarantee our clients' results at our firm. With that said, by the way, if you have any questions about anything I've covered here or any other general questions, contact me several ways. One of which you can just leave me a comment below. I get back to everybody who leaves me a comment or question on this channel. I also can be reached through my Discord group, link in the description, as well as you can reach out to me through my site at guaranteedppc.com. You can call me or just message me and we'll set up a call. I do coaching and consulting. I also do, beyond that, actual ad management. So we manage your ads. We manage clients' ads at our agency. But what makes us different than everybody else is that we do not charge our clients management fees until they get a certain minimum lift in the profitability that we provide them up front. So if they're doing, let's say, $1 million a year in sales from their ads, we'll have to bring you to like 1.25 before we charge any management fees. And the idea being that by the time you start paying us, we've already made you more than the fee just in the additional profits from the strategies we're using. The question is whether we can get you results or not. But if you want to know how much results I can bring you with my strategies, all you have to do is reach out to me through my site and I'll get you a projection that tells you exactly precisely that. I do not charge for that projection. So reach out to me at my site if you're interested in having the best ad strategists work on your stuff personally with a great back-end team to help execute everything on top of it. Furthermore, I've got great templates for sale. If you are in a market that we've already been in, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market that you could copy paste into your ad account and get the same results we did with none of the work, none of the money that we had to spend to figure out how to get those same results for your market. I've been in over 100 different niche markets, so I've got a bunch of templates available. If you want a template and you want to know the results you can get with a template, let me know and I'll tell you, of course, up front exactly what that is. So anyway, going back to what I was mentioning here to go into the numbers and things, the key thing on average that you can expect if you go forward with this formula right here is about 30% of the people who watch your video will opt in. Like I mentioned, you don't do it half-ass and just, ultimately either yourself make the video, or if you're not particularly good looking or attractive or can't speak well, you hire a professional actor to do it. So it looks authentic. And, frankly, if you're just, a 2 out of 10 in terms of aesthetics and looks, you don't do it yourself because you look like crap. People click off of that. Sorry, I mean, it's the way it is. So if you just follow this formula and you follow those rules, you should be able to get 30%. So if you're paying $1.50 per click to get them to your page, you should be able to get an opt-in for $5. If you're paying 30 cents to get them there, you can get an opt-in for $1. Okay. If you are inexperienced and you do this not really that well, or you actually don't have your targeting right, because the other part of this too is the targeting. If you're not getting the right person to the page that has the problem that you have, you're not going to get no 30% opt-in rates. You're going to get 3% opt-in rates, and it's mainly because of the targeting. And that's where more so people go wrong. So if you're just running a Facebook ad to everybody and don't understand targeting real well, you can easily experience less than that. But what I will tell you, even with Facebook ads, is the algorithm is going to optimize. And you'll eventually get to a point where you are getting 30% opt-in rates itself, because the system's going to find out the person who really should see the information versus should not. And that's the biggest factor, even more so than even the video. Okay, once you have this basic formula down. Beyond that, if you're wondering how many will buy your solution that get to the pre-recorded webinar, that is right around 2% on average is what we're able to get at our firm on average for all the clients that we've worked with in the past. So, and again, that, you have to know how to make a webinar. There's all kinds of resources out there on that exact topic. But if you're wondering, by the way, why pre-recorded webinar, why not just another longer sales video? The pre-recorded webinar builds trust because it gives you what feels like something that has social proof. There's a whole bunch of people who watched you speak itself, and therefore they're going to take it more seriously because they know that, and that's just how it is. Why do people want to buy from somebody who's speaking on a stage versus just speaking on a YouTube video? Because of trust and perceived social proof, so to say. With that said, by the way, sometimes video sales letters are not the route to go. I mentioned that before. It's just one tool in your toolbox. I like to use fake articles generally even more than video sales letter landing pages. When I mean by fake article, I mean affiliates use this all the time, but regular people who aren't affiliates don't seem to know about this really. You send people, so if they're interested in fixing a foot fungus problem, you send people to an article that looks like a medical journal talking about this new breakthrough foot fungus cure that will fix your foot fungus without having to have medical, treatment and so on and so forth. And then in that article pitches a certain product. We use that a lot more than video sales letters, but if you're selling something in these type of niches, like I mentioned, video sales letters actually work generally better. Now, is there some situations where some markets where we've used video sales letters that are not in dating and money and health and got it to work? Yes, we have. But generally speaking, those are where it fits in the best. And for that matter, I would recommend split testing both. I'd go video sales letter, I'd try a fake article, see which one works the best for you, because it might surprise you which one actually works better, and often surprises us. I mentioned the actual real estate course business and coaching business because we've been in this space. With this business, the guy was running YouTube ads that we were working with, and we ran this exact formula that I just talked about on this video. Our conversion rates on the amount of people that watched the sales video that opted in literally was 45%. Targeting, though, people on YouTube that were actually watching videos about how to find real estate deals. We were able to drill down the targeting to that exact set of videos, what's great about YouTube is you can find channels and or videos about real estate investing and finding deals and just target those videos. So of course your opt-in rate is going to be super high because the exact thing that they were looking for, you're offering it. And really all you got to do is show up and be a little bit more compelling than the video that they're watching, and you can make it work. We were generating hundreds of opt-ins a month in this market, targeting videos like that. Given it's a fairly big niche, you can do that kind of volume. Of which on the webinar though, we were only getting about 1.5% convert from opt-in to sale on a low four-figure ticket product. But this was making over a 500% ROI, given that it's a high margin business. You know, selling coaching and courses has very high margins. That's a highly, highly successful result for a company in that type of line of business. We've also used video sales letters for the medical space and functional medicine. So somebody who has several things, but have an elbow problem, stomach problem, where we have videos that went through the same formula, same process. In that situation, we're only getting close to 20% of people from Google searches and also YouTube ads, which, by the way, I recommend YouTube and Google search driving traffic to your video sales letter page than Facebook, because the traffic you can get to in front of the exact person you want then, so that somebody's you're trying to fix an elbow problem. You can find somebody on Google search that has an elbow problem. How do you fix elbow problems? And you can drive them to this page. And same thing on YouTube. Similar to that, by the way, Google has data on who's recently searched for how to fix an elbow problem. And you can get in front of people on other websites as they're browsing the web for up to 30 days after, using something called custom intent audiences. Anyway, so we're at closer to 15% opt-in rates on that. However, the closing rate, we're between 2 and 3% there. Now, why is that? Well, ultimately, people have a lot more trust from a doctor that was also doing the webinar than some guy talking about real estate. So generally speaking, it depends on what your product is, how much trust and perceived trust there is in that space, and for the person speaking, what credibility do they have that'll affect your conversion rates here, versus on the initial opt-in for this. I believe anyway, the reason why the opt-in rate was lower, even though our targeting was really good, because people are more skeptical initially because they've tried other stuff to fix their stomach problem, their elbow problem, and it's not worked. But once they actually got to see the doctor talk in detail about why this works, now they understand why this should work. We're generating hundreds of leads a month in this space as well for this doctor. So there's a couple case studies for you and just how much this works. The doctor itself, it's over 1,000% ROI on their campaign here, their video sales letter campaign, which we run that, and we run also medical journal articles that we send people to. We do that on Facebook. And so like I said before, you should do a combination of both. And frankly, on Facebook, sending them to the article might be better than sending them to the video sales letter. And on Google, the opposite can be true. But that is everything I kind of wanted to go over here in terms of how well this works, how it works, how to do an actual video sales letter that'll work in and for your business. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.